Okay, so here's the deal on this lesson tonight. You had pretty note sheets, then I was all prepared to pass them out to you. Jennifer spent her time and made copies for us, and wrote this Bible study. I've taught the study twice already. I taught this lesson Tuesday night for some single moms in Mount Pleasant. And I sat down Friday morning to look it back over, just to kind of just take a glance at it, and it just didn't sit right. And so I just began to pray, and I stepped away from it for a little bit, and I said, okay, Lord, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, I want you to rewrite it. And I said, well, no. I don't want to do that. We're going into a weekend. I never go into a weekend with too much to do study-wise, because you can't with 3 boys and a husband home. And I don't want to. I want to spend my time with them. I want to do that while they're home. And so I was like, Lord, I've got it written. I know this material. I don't want to change it, but it wasn't for me to decide. He wanted it rewritten, and I feel like he wanted it rewritten because somebody in here tonight needs this word. And so since I said, okay, I'll rewrite it. Okay, I'll redo it. I knew where he wanted me to go with it. I'll rewrite it. I'll get up early Saturday morning. I'll get up early Sunday morning, and I can knock it out. Friday night, Tyler hurts his foot, turns his ankle, can't walk all day Saturday. Last night, Tyler starts running fever. Ryan and I both get sick. So it's just been like a struggle to get to this time at 6:40 on Sunday night to bring this message to you. And so what I'm saying is that I believe somebody's going to be set free tonight because of the word that the Lord wants delivered through me to you. Otherwise, if not, you got a good piece of cake and you got a great song. So you're still covered. Okay. Micah 6:8. Micah 6:8. So a prophet in the Old Testament. This is what it says. It says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Okay, our beatitude tonight is Matthew 5:7, and it says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." So we've been studying the Beatitudes. In studying the Beatitudes, what we've been attempting to answer is the question of how do I walk in the freedom that Christ has already given me? Okay, how do I do this thing? I know that sounds great. I've been set free. I have freedom. To whom the Son sets free is free indeed. I have this, but actually walking in it is a whole nother thing, right? Because of life, and it's hard sometimes. Okay, so how do we go about doing this? And I believe that the answer is found in the Beatitudes. You see, we've got to get, if you're truly serious about being a disciple of Jesus Christ, right? Like you're taking this thing seriously that you say that you are, then you're going to have to be able to genuinely love God and love people with all you got so that you can go with all you have. Does y'all remember this now? It's been a while. So that's the premise of the study. Christ expects certain behaviors from His people. If you say you're a disciple of Christ, act like it. There's certain attitudes that are expected of His people, okay? And so what we've studied so far through the Beatitudes is this. We've said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So that's an attitude of humility, and that defeats pride, right? Yeah. So blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Learning how to mourn well defeats shame. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. An attitude of meekness defeats jealousy. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. An attitude of mercy defeats unforgiveness. That's our lesson for tonight. An attitude of mercy defeats unforgiveness. So maybe you have all the talent in the world. You have all the gifting in the world. You have all the education you need, the money that you need to do amazing things for the Lord, but your attitude is not right. Can't go up. It's going to hold you back every time. It's going to hold you. Attitude is everything. How we've settled in on our thinking on certain things, our feeling about certain people. How we've settled in. Do you know that you can change that mindset? Do you know that can actually change? You do have the power to change that. Attitude is everything. I don't know about you, but I want to be I want to get the absolute most out of this life. Do you? Do you want to get the absolute most out of this life? Like, I'm going to squeeze it till the last drop. Do you want that? Attitude means everything in this. You know, I've decided this year, and I said this Wednesday night, like, I'm running. Like, today I wanted to throw in the white flag, say I surrender, call somebody else to come and preach. Because I was just done, you know? Just to the end of my rope. I'm tired, I'm sick, my kid's crying. It's like, that's when the passion, you have to have the passion to do what you do. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Because there's going to be days you have to fight through. There's going to be times you have to fight through it, and you've got to get up there and do it anyways, even when nothing about you feels like it. Attitude is everything. Mindset is everything. I'm going to run after my destiny as hard as I can run after my destiny. I'm going to be the best wife. I'm going to be the best mama. I'm going to be the best Bible teacher. I'm going to be the best shoulder to cry on. I'm going to be the best friend that you've ever had. You know why? Because I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength to do it. He's my source. I can do it. Do you see? That mindset is a whole lot different than, I just can't do this anymore. I'm down. I'm out. I just don't think I can handle it. I'm overwhelmed. No, you've got to change the way you think. You've got to change the way you think. I can do all things because He is my source. He is my strength, and He's called me to do it. So He's going to give me what I need to get through it. Are you with me? Amen. Attitude is everything. That's why we're talking about the Beatitudes. There's not only blessing in these Beatitudes, there's freedom. But you've got to take on these mindsets. And I would venture to say that, and I'm not going to keep you long, I would venture to say that our topic for tonight is probably, if I want to do all of that, if I want to reach the destiny that the Lord has for me, if you want to reach the destiny, and I'm just going to assume that you do. Not everybody does. Not everybody does want to reach the destiny that the Lord has for them. That's not what they've chosen for their life. But if you really, really do, and I do, one of the most vital ingredients to that is being able to be merciful. Be merciful. The ability to extend mercy quickly and forgive is a game changer. It really is. So what is mercy? Mercy. I say have mercy all the time. Ross will go, I've heard Ross say, have mercy. I say it all the time. What is mercy? The concept of mercy is vast, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the mercy that comes when we are just extending mercy to somebody that physically needs it, because I don't think I'm in a group of women tonight that really, if somebody is on the side of the road, been beaten, left for dead, I would venture to say that there would be no one in this room that would pass that person by. You'd stop and help. You would extend mercy. So I'm not going to dwell there tonight. And in fact, just to brag on this church, y'all amaze me with your giving. I'm amazed at how quickly needs are met of our members. But we don't have a problem extending a helping hand of mercy and compassion to those in need. So I don't want to dwell there. So another concept of mercy, okay, would be extending mercy to someone that's your adversary, right? Like, they just don't like you. They don't like you. And it's really for no good reason. They're just not for you. They don't like you. You've tried to make them like you. You know, you've done all you could to be kind to them. You've done all you can to have a conversation with them that would bring unity. You know in your heart that you've not wronged them in any ways, but they just don't like you. Extend mercy, forgive them for the cold shoulder, and move on, because we just really don't have time to dwell there. Are you with me? So that's another concept of mercy. That's another direction you can go, but I don't think we need to spend any more time on that, because I don't think that would be the best way to spend our time. I think the best way to spend our time tonight is discussing the extension of mercy to people who have done us wrong. You could say, hurt your feelings. You could say, offended and leaving the church. Beta Satan people. Just a joke. Okay. You could say offended. However best resonates with you. So, what we're going to spend our time on tonight is talking about extending mercy to those who have hurt us. Okay? Because that's where I think that's where we need to spend our time most. It's going to be the most applicable. Mercy is the foundation of forgiveness. Jesus was the full expression of God's mercy to us. In Christ, what? We don't get what we deserve, right? Which is death, because we are a sinful people, and we could not survive day to day without God's mercy and grace. At the heart of mercy is God's love for us. He loved us so much, He put that love on display when He sacrificed His Son. It's a mind-blowing action that God took. Action. There's a key word. Action. The sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross was an action. Mercy is active. We don't just think about extending mercy. We do it, and the quicker you can do it, the better off you're going to be. Are you with me? Mercy is active, it's expected, and it's to be exercised by God's people on a regular basis, not just on an occasional impulse. Would you agree? Yeah. Would you agree with me that in situations, if you would extend mercy quickly, you could save yourself a lot of grief? Yes. Save yourself a lot of grief. Yep. Okay. So it's ironic that we reason in our minds someone who's done us wrong doesn't deserve mercy, which is the foundation of forgiveness, remember. It's ironic for us to settle in on that way of thinking when the creator of the universe that gives breath to us, that gives life to us, showed us mercy. Here's the deal. When it comes right down to it, we want to be extended mercy in the fullest measure by God and by others, and then we pick and choose who we want to extend mercy to. Right? Thankfully, God didn't pick and choose. We cannot be imitators of Christ if we don't choose to be merciful. We cannot live freely if we don't choose to be merciful. We cannot love freely if we don't choose to be merciful. Blessed are the merciful, because it is that extension of mercy that will keep us from the confinement of unforgiveness. Anybody ever lived in unforgiveness? Oh yeah. You're just pinned in. You're just pinned in. Just imagine just chairs surrounding me, and I would try to go this way, but I only go this far because something's blocking me. So I would try to go this way, but I could only go so far because something's in my way. So I turn and I try. Do you get what I'm saying? You cannot run the race that you're called to run if you can't forgive, and the foundation of forgiveness is mercy. Mercy. Don't live in that confinement of unforgiveness anymore. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. So, if you aren't merciful, you aren't living freely. And if you aren't living freely, you aren't getting the most out of this one shot at life that you have. Turn to Matthew 18 with me. Matthew 18. And we're going to read this parable, the parable of the unmerciful servant, to hopefully drive home the point that I'm trying to make. Okay? All right. You there? Matthew 18, verse 21. It says this, Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times, Peter said. Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servant. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to pay the debt. The servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged. Be patient with me, and I will pay back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. But when the servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. Verse 29, his fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, be patient with me and I will pay you back. 30, but he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed and went and told their master everything that had happened. Verse 32, then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said, I canceled all the debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all that he owed. 35. This is how my heavenly Father will treat you unless you forgive your brother from your heart. So there's a lot there. Here's what I want to say. Verses 21 and 22, when Peter said, Lord, how many times? Oh, how many times? How many times? 7 times? No, 70 times 7, and he was saying there's no number. You can't put a number on it. So you might as well learn to love it. Act justly. Love mercy. You might as well learn to love it. And notice Peter asks specifically, you're going to have to tune in with me here, because if you don't, then you're going to leave here and you're not going to get the right message. So I need you to really listen to what I'm about to say. Peter asks specifically about a brother who has sinned against him. In other words, what we were just talking about, the brother is doing exactly what we described. He's offended him. He's most likely causing Peter grief. Okay? He may be hurting Peter's feelings. And Peter said, how many times, Lord, do I have to extend mercy, and what? And what? How many times do I have to extend mercy, and then what was the word? And what? Forgive. How many times do I have to extend mercy and forgive this person? And Jesus says, every single time, times infinity. Now, I already know what your minds are doing, because mine would have went there. You lose focus on the single thing Jesus is telling us to do, which is to extend mercy and forgive. What we want to do is talk about something that's not the issue at hand. We want to talk about how hurt we are. That's not the issue at hand. I'm not trying to be not compassionate here. I'm not trying to be unsympathetic. I'm trying to make a point. How hurt we are is not the issue at hand. We want to talk about how we can never trust again. Not the issue at hand. We want to talk about anything else but extending mercy to forgive when we're offended, when we hurt. We don't want to do that. That is the single issue at hand tonight. That is the single issue at hand. The way forward in any situation, the way forward is forgiveness. The way forward is forgiveness. The foundation of forgiveness is mercy. How many times? There's no number. And here's what I'm not saying, okay? I'm not saying you have to be an enabler of someone's bad habit. Not saying that. I'm not saying you have to be a doormat, ever. Not saying that. Not saying that. But forgive, you must. You must. Extend mercy, forgive, and then we can begin to work on the best path forward. We can begin to work on those trust issues. We can begin to work on that hurt and that pain. But it starts with the extension of mercy and forgiveness, because you cannot make good decisions with a bitter heart. You cannot make good decisions with a bitter heart. As we keep going, 23 through 27, okay, when it's talking about the fact that this man, this servant, had a debt he could not pay. He could not. What does that remind you of? The gospel. I mean, everybody's heard the gospel message. Your debt, my debt, everyone's debt. We couldn't pay it. We couldn't pay it. It's been canceled, though, through Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. In our parable, you remember, Jesus says 10,000 talents. 10,000 talents. 10,000 was the largest single number Greek could express, and talent was the largest unit of currency. He's trying to make a point here. Make sure that we understood that even though the servant fell on his knees and said he would pay everything back to the king, there was no possible way. Like, he was never going to pay this debt back. That's why he said 10,000 talents. He's trying to make the point that this debt cannot be paid. The servant could not pay this debt. No way in a lifetime this guy was going to be able to pay this debt back, right? He's in a moment of desperation. He fell to his knees. He and his family and everything he had was about to be sold, and he begged for mercy. You ever been there? You're just on your knees. You're desperate for mercy. You've messed up. You need God to have mercy on you, which He does. You need that person that you've wronged to extend mercy and forgive you. And you're desperate. You're in a desperate state. The servant was in a desperate state with the king. Okay, he had just kept on running up that debt. The king took pity on him. He had compassion. And he said, you know what? Debt's canceled. You're free to go. That's amazing. Debt's canceled. You're free to go. I think most of our minds might say, well, why did he run up so much debt? What was he doing? Did he deserve that? Did he deserve for that debt to be canceled? You know what I'm saying? That's sort of what our minds do. But the king said, I've canceled your debt. You're free to go. Free to go. He didn't say, you've made your bed, now go lay in it. He didn't say, set up a payment plan. I'll charge you more interest than you could possibly ever pay. He didn't berate him about how irresponsible he was. He didn't take the opportunity to remind him of how badly he messed up and the mess he made. The parable says he took pity on him. He had compassion on him. He was kind to him. And he said, your debt's canceled. You're free to go. Free to go. God's done this for us. The magnitude of God's saving mercy and grace is comparable to the 10,000 talents. Like, we just kept running up the debt. We just kept running up the debt with our sin, and God in His great mercy says, I've canceled your debt. You're free to go. You're free to go. When you don't think you have it in you to extend another ounce of mercy and forgive, I want you to remember this part of the parable. I want you to remember the parable. Remember the 10,000 talents. Maybe it's time to let some people off the hook so you can go on with your life. Because remember, we're pinned in if we can't extend mercy. We're pinned in with these chairs that aren't really here, but we're imagining they are. We can't go this way too far. And we can't go this way too far. And what I want for me and what I want for each one of you is to be able to kick the chair over and run. Run with all that you have towards the destiny that God has for you. You have to extend mercy. You have to forgive. And remember, the issue at hand is the extension of mercy and nothing else at this point. Healing can't begin until mercy is extended wholeheartedly. As we go on, verses 28 and 30, let's just read it for a reminder. But when the servant went out, wow. When the servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe me," he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me and I will pay you back." But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. The proper response to the magnitude of the mercy that was just shown to this servant, the proper response would be appreciation, would be praise. But we come to the part of the parable that is deeply disappointing yet so realistic. It's so realistic. What we want what we don't want to give. We want what we don't want to give. When we mess up, we appreciate when someone is understanding and accepts our apology and mercy is extended and forgiveness is asked for, and the best possible outcome would be that the relationship grows stronger now because both hearts were willing to work toward a positive resolution. Both hearts were willing to work towards positive resolution. It wasn't one-sided. Both hearts were in it, and both hearts can begin to heal because of the model set before us by God's saving grace. We receive from Him, and then we give out, right? And so if we're both modeling God's saving grace, if we're modeling that method, then there should be nothing that we can't work through. There should be nothing that we can't come to resolution on. We may just finally get to a point where we say, you know what, I just don't agree with you on that, but we can still go forward together. That would be the model that has been set before us by God's saving grace. But in our parable, the servant's heart only wanted what would benefit him. And then he got it. And then what did he do with it? He only wanted what would benefit him. And that's why he did what he did. He was prideful, self-absorbed, but he left the mercy seat where he had received an enormous gift of canceling all of his debt. Go free. He left the mercy seat, and then he went out and did to his fellow servant what he had just been spared from. Did we do this? Are we doing this? How could we do this? Why is it that we expect what we aren't willing to give? Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Show what you've been shown by God. His example is our model, and Jesus expects His disciples to act justly and show mercy to everyone. If they aren't good stewards of our mercy, which is an extension of the mercy God has shown us, that's on them. That's on them. It's not a mindset of, well, I will if they will. Our part is to be merciful, show mercy, and forgive, because I want you out of the confinement of unforgiveness. All right, consequences. 31 through 35. So when the other servants saw this, obviously it had stirred up all kinds of trouble, right? All kinds of trouble. And the king was informed and brought him back in. He brought him back in. He called him wicked. He said, "You wicked servant. I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had mercy on you?" In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. You begged me for mercy. I showed you mercy. Shouldn't you have done the same to your fellow servants? Shouldn't you have done the same? Jesus is calling into question here if in fact the servant had really ever received the forgiveness of God. Think about that for a minute. In other words, do you really know who my Father is? What He has extended to you? And have you really ever, with your whole heart, accepted forgiveness from the Father? Have you ever really accepted that you're forgiven? Have you ever really just sat and just meditated on what we've been forgiven? Have you actually accepted that you have been forgiven? If you have, there's no way you can withhold it from your brothers and sisters. In fact, this story illustrates it's absurd too. It's absurd too. You've received such compassion from your Creator, such grace, such mercy, but you don't extend it. Wouldn't we be eager to extend the same? Have you ever really received forgiveness from the Father? I think that a lot of times we don't forgive ourselves. And so it's so hard to extend forgiveness. So hard to extend mercy when we can't forgive ourselves. Have you ever really received that forgiveness from the Father? Have you really forgiven yourself so you can forgive others? When you receive that forgiveness from the Father, when it's wholehearted, and when you really take it in, then it becomes a lot easier for you to extend mercy and forgive. Something for you to think on. In our parable, the servant was called wicked. He was tortured for the rest of his life, which is a reference to hell. And Jesus very bluntly says, that's how my Father will treat you unless we forgive our brother. Do you notice where it says our brother? In 35, unless you forgive your brother, that takes us back to where we started when Peter says, how many times shall I forgive my brother? That takes us back to the beginning. He says, from the heart. From the heart. See, you're going to know it when you do it from the heart, because those chairs begin to give you a little bit more room and you can breathe. You can breathe. The life is not sucked out of you so much anymore. Now it's a process. God can do it like that. But a lot of times it's a process because we've got pain. Okay? But if you'll know it when you do it from the heart, because you'll begin to breathe a little bit more, and you'll begin to feel the joy kind of coming back up a little more, and you'll begin to dream a little more. You'll begin to think, my life's not over anymore. I've got so much ahead of me now. Oh, I can run after that now. Do you understand what I'm saying? When it's from the heart, you know it. It has to be wholehearted. Jesus is saying no disciple of mine could act as the servant did in this story. Of course, we're not going to do this perfectly. We're human. We're not going to do this perfectly. I have not done this perfectly, and I have paid dearly for it. I promise you. I have lived in the confinement of unforgiveness. And I wasted a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time. But in that time, I won't say wasted, because in that time I grew up a lot. In that time I allowed the Lord to work on me. And it came to a point where I had to choose, which way are you going to go, Leslie? Which way are you going to go? You going to stay here forever, or are you going to run? You can't run with this stuff pinning you down. You're going to have to make a choice here. And so what I'm saying is, don't take this as I'm saying you're not saved if you're carrying around unforgiveness. That's not what I'm saying. We're not going to get this right every time. Sometimes it takes us a while to get it in our thick skull that forgiving that person, it's for me. It's not for them. It's for me. It's why God mandates it, because He knows what's best for us. And so he's saying, you may not get this right every time, but is your life characterized by the extension of mercy? Blessed are the merciful. Right? So here's some questions. Do you refuse to extend mercy and speak kindly and cooperate and accept apologies? Are you unwilling to forgive those hard cases? Those that in your mind don't deserve it? I mean, we've all been there. We've all been hurt to the point where we think they don't deserve nothing but to look at my backside. I don't know. I can't think of anything. You know what I'm saying? That was good? You know what I'm saying, though? It's like, oh my gosh, they've done us so wrong. I can't even. I just can't even. I can't even go there. You have to go back to the first point. We're not talking about feelings right now. We're talking about an act of obedience in extending mercy to forgive, because that's the only way forward. That's the only reason I'm preaching this message. I want us to go forward. And so if there's somebody in this room that's bound up in this, you have to know that I'm not saying that maybe that you're not sort of justified in a way, in the way that you feel, because I know there's some very hard things that go on in this life. I'm simply saying that the way forward is forgiveness. I'm simply saying that I'm not talking about feelings. I'm not talking about counseling on trust issues at this point. I'm simply saying for you to make up your mind that I'm going to extend forgiveness. I don't want to, but I'm going to do it because I want to move forward. I don't want to stay in the same place. I don't want to stay in the same place. So I'm going to make up my mind to do it. And unwillingness to forgive really has nothing to do with the offender and everything to do with what you are personally hiding and holding on to and harboring in your heart. And so, I want you to be free. That's the whole reason for writing this study. That's the whole reason I struggle through crying kids and just the struggle to sit and write this stuff down so that I can stand before you to say these messages, to teach these messages. I struggle through all of it, all the crud that comes my way, because I want to be free and I want you to be free, because I want you to run. I want you to walk in the freedom that Christ died to give you. And if you want that, if you want to live this life without regret, you want to experience the fullness of joy, you want to have the satisfaction of deep relationships, the ability to love God and His people like you never have been able to before. If you want to be blessed, you want to be favored by God, be merciful without delay. Be merciful without delay. For those are the ones that will be shown mercy. It's very clear in His Word. So what we started with was, He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act right, to act justly, love mercy. Get used to it. Get used to it, because it's a broken world. And you know what? You're going to need it extended to you, because you're going to mess up too. Love mercy. I love the mercy that He lavishes upon me every day. His mercies are new every morning. I love God's grace. I love mercy. And so I want to get to where I love to extend it, because I know it's what's best for me. And I know it's what's going to get me a little bit further down the road to that destiny He has for me. I want to run. And so I'm going to learn to love mercy. And then I'm going to deal with my feelings after I've forgiven. Because you do have to deal with your feelings. I mean, let's just be real. Yeah. But God can deal with that too. And godly women mentors in your life can they can help you along. If you don't have one, you need one. You don't have one, you need one. You don't have that person speaking positive stuff into your life, giving you words of encouragement. Hey, you need that. We need that. We need to encourage each other. Be merciful without delay. Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God.